Hello, everybody, and welcome on in to another edition of Dodgers Dawgs as part of the Dodgers Daily Network. My name is Austin Brubaker, and I am very excited to be here on another live show we get to do here on Dodgers Daily. Dodgers have a big series coming up this week. We'll be diving into that. Dodgers versus the San Diego Padres, and what is a continuation of what is the toughest stretch of the Dodgers' regular season schedule. A lot of playoff caliber teams the Dodgers have had to face. They've had to face the Mets. They had to face the Yankees. They had to face the Mets again. They had to face the Cardinals, which proved to be a very tough task for the Dodgers, at least during this past weekend series. And now we get into some of the divisional rivals and the divisional foes in a race that still has yet to be decided. Obviously, it's very early in the season, and so no race is really ultimately decided. But with a team as talented as the Dodgers, there might have been some expectation that perhaps the Dodgers would be pulled away at least a little bit more in the division at this point into the season, with it being currently June 9th. That is not the case right now. These two teams have yet to play against each other, but now we get to find out exactly what's going to happen in the first iteration, in the first matchup between the Los Angeles Dodgers and the San Diego Padres. A rematch of what has become a rivalry between the two teams. And yes, I know that it's not something that Dodgers fans always like to say, Dodgers versus Padres being a rivalry. Obviously, Dodgers versus Giants being the main rivalry for the Dodgers. But the Dodgers versus Padres series has been something that has been fiery. It has been something that has meant a lot. And remember what happened back in 2024. We remember what happened back in 2022. We remember the Dodgers beat the Padres in 2020 as well. This series has had very serious postseason implications. And during a stretch when the Dodgers are thin, particularly on the pitching side, this is perhaps a really good test to see the gut and character of this Dodgers team. Going into San Diego during a place where the San Diego fans want nothing more than to beat the Los Angeles Dodgers. Going into there with pitching that is depleted at this point, and trying to go out there and maintain your division lead and go out and win a series against the San Diego Padres into a series in which the Padres, with the pitching that they have healthy currently, lined up exactly how they would want it. This is going to be a real tough test for the Los Angeles Dodgers. It's going to be fun, exciting baseball here as we're approaching mid-June type time frame, and it's going to show a lot about where this division race is going to go. This won't be the last time the Dodgers play the Padres, but it's going to be a fun, exciting rivalry that we're going to be able to see played out. We're going to be diving into a little bit of that, some of my thoughts, some of my things that I'm going to be looking for, as well as the overall status of where the Dodgers are at. Particularly, we're going to be diving into the pitching for the Los Angeles Dodgers. We'll talk a little bit of Tony Gonsolin, as well as where is the Dodgers pitching right now. Let's dive into some of the numbers, and not just the numbers for the overall season. Let's break it down a little bit to see, should there be a lot of concern? Should there be a little bit of concern? And how much is there going to need to be for the Dodgers to really make an upgrade to this team? I'll also recap a little bit about what I experienced in South Bend, as there is actually a historic game, a historic moment that I got to be able to witness during my time in South Bend, watching the high A affiliate of the Los Angeles Dodgers, the Great Lakes Loons. It's going to be a fun show. We'll dive into a lot of different pieces, but we're going to talk a lot about what you guys want to talk about as well, as we have some people joining us in the chat. Craig Osterberg, thank you for joining us as always. Daniel Berry Sports Highlights, thank you for joining us. Sandman Logic, hitting wasn't the problem. Hitting with runners in scoring position was. Yeah, that was when we were talking about the series in St. Louis, and what they were dealing with during that series. That really was the downfall of the Dodgers. Actually, looking at the overall season numbers, Dodgers haven't been that bad at all with hitting and runners in scoring position in comparison to the rest of the league. At one point, they were towards the top of Major League Baseball with batting average with runners in scoring position. When you're going through the course of the season, though, that's not going to happen every single time. And especially when you have some hitters right now that are struggling a little bit, or at least the past several games have struggled quite a bit. Freddie Freeman did not have his typical Freddie Freeman swing during the series in St. Louis. Not what you want to see. You expect Freddie Freeman to go out there and be fine. I'm not worried about him at all. Teoscar Hernandez is a little bit interesting because he's on a more extended run of a little bit of struggle right now, which with Teoscar Hernandez, his value to this team, at least on the field, numerically wise, mostly comes from his ability to hit the baseball, his ability to be extremely productive offensively. During the early portion of the season, was incredibly productive offensively. Defensively, depending on which metric that you look at, which if you look at Teoscar Hernandez, the defensive metrics actually differ quite dramatically depending on if you use defensive run saves, if you use outs above average. Defensive run saves actually grades him out as slightly above average. Outs above average has him way below league average. You grade that out somewhere in between. He's probably a below average defender in the outfield. So that means that a lot of his value is going to come from the offensive side. And when Teoscar Hernandez is struggling, especially because he hasn't drawn a whole lot of walks this season, it really becomes more emphasized. Am I worried about Teoscar? Not really at this point. If it continues to be an extended run, this could be something that you could at least take note of a little bit. But he's a run producer. He means a lot to this lineup, and he has been part of this lineup that has been extremely successful. But certainly during the previous series against the Cardinals, which I got to see some of the games, not all of the games because of a lot of the traveling that I was doing and all the stuff that I do throughout the week, certainly was an issue and a problem that he was dealing with. We'll get to the question about Casey in just a second. Actually, no, let's go ahead and address it right now. Casey still is feeling ill at this point, dealing with a pretty extensive illness right now. I haven't contacted him within the past couple of days just because I didn't really want to bother him a whole lot. He is trying to avoid a lot of this stuff right now. As far as baseball-wise, just to get as much rest as he possibly can. Casey when he is on here and when he's covering it, he goes all out. As you can see with the social media, that updates that he provides with the players at the minor league level, in combination to watching the big league level, which remember, Casey is not from the West Coast. He's from the central part of America in Oklahoma. And so it's very much a later time frame of what he's doing that on top of the job that he has. So he's incredibly busy when he's able to do that. He's working his way to try to get back as soon as he possibly can. So continue to be praying for Casey. Any sort of updates as far as when I would be able to provide that, I'll certainly pass on that information as soon as I possibly can. But with Casey right now, just continue to keep praying for him, and he will get back here as soon as possible because this is one of the things that he loves nothing more than everything. So until then, I will continue to try to provide content on this show to try to make sure that we continue to keep this going. I know Coach Holt was actually on the show on Wednesday. We weren't supposed to do a show Wednesday, but we did a show Wednesday for you because the Loons games got rained out. If you haven't checked out that show, that was actually a really fun show. Really the first time Coach and I have had to interact one-on-one in a show like that. We've got a couple of other shows coming up this week. I believe Thursday. I don't have this booked quite yet. But Mark Watkins, one of the contributors here at Dodgers Daily, been on a lot of the morning shows that Casey had released Tuesdays and Thursdays. I believe it's going to join for a live show one of the days this week, probably Thursday, I think is what it worked out. We'll see. Don't hold a word to it. And then I'm trying to do at least one other show throughout the week. So hopefully we get 3 shows in through the course of this week. Hopefully that other one can be another fun episode with Coach Holt. I'll be on the show tonight. But yeah, no, with Casey, he's going to be joining back as soon as he possibly can. Keep praying for him. Keep your good thoughts out for him, and he will join us as soon as possible. Speaking of fun, well, not necessarily, there's not really a good transition to that, but Justin Lamas mentioned something, and on this show we like to talk a lot about different fun things, and I take it a little bit where the chat wants to take it. And Justin Lamas, I can tell he is very much a fan of this channel, or knows the depth of where this channel can go, because he mentioned something on here. Hey guys, by the way, today I learned that Will Wilson could be optioned to AAA despite being selected in the Rule 5 minor league portion phase of the Rule 5 draft. Can you explain how the Rule 5 minor league phase works? And he also mentioned, I assume the player selected in the minor league Rule 5 has to stay on AAA phase or else be returned to his original team like the major league phase. I'll touch on this briefly. We'll get back to the Dodger stuff, so stick around for the Dodger stuff as well. But I want to address this question because I think it's a fun, interesting question that doesn't get asked a whole lot. So with the Rule 5 draft, which takes place in December, there are two different phases of the Rule 5 draft. You have the major league portion phase, which is the one that, if there's a lot of coverage about the Rule 5 draft, which for baseball nerds, there is some coverage about the Rule 5 draft, one of my favorite events of the year. You have the major league phase, in which guys could be selected to be part of a major league team's 26-man roster through the entirety of the season. If if a player gets selected from the major league phase, they cannot be optioned down to AAA. They can't be optioned down to any of the minor league levels. There also, in addition to a major league phase, there is a less covered and there's less information about it minor league phase of the Rule 5 draft. And we saw this actually impact the Dodgers organization pitching wise. Michael Hobbs was a pitcher taken in the minor league Rule 5 AAA phase portion of the draft. Hanyul Choi was another one, and there was Orlando Ortiz Mayer was another one that got selected during that portion of the minor league Rule 5 draft. Now, there is a unpublicized, or at least I haven't been able to find it, AAA roster. I believe it's 38-player AAA roster that teams can select from or have players be part of that. Now, I don't know a lot of these rules. I don't know the inner workings of a lot of that stuff. But when a player gets selected in the minor league phase of the Rule 5 draft, I believe they are added to that 38-man AAA roster that is unpublicized out there. Now, they don't have to, and this is where the minor league phase and the major league phase of the Rule 5 draft differs. They do not have to spend all of their time in AAA if they are selected in the minor league phase of the Rule 5 draft. They can basically be whatever level they want to be. For example, Michael Hobbs, who was selected from the Dodgers, he was selected by the New York Mets but is now spending time within the Seattle Mariners organization. Hasn't spent any time at the AAA level this season and has been at the AA level. Hanyul Choi, another example, started the season at AAA but got moved back to AA at the minor league phase of the Rule 5 draft. During the course of the season, struggled at AAA, now is having a lot of success at AA. So it doesn't really matter which level of the minor leagues they are if they are selected in the minor league phase of the Rule 5 draft. Major league phase, you can't just option them back to Oklahoma City or AAA or whatever the AAA team is of a major league organization. That's a little bit in depth, gets a little bit funky with that stuff, and a lot of finding this stuff, doing a lot of research for this stuff becomes a little bit more difficult to be able to do. But that's to answer your question, Justin Lamas. Thank you for the I say slightly obscure question only because Rule 5 draft in the middle of June. We're about 6 months from the Rule 5 draft, but it does have implications for a lot of these players, so I'm more than happy to be able to explain that. As we get into a couple more comments before we get into the actual topic of the show, Indigenous69 says the Dodgers need upgrades quick. Smash the like button, says Jay. And then talking a little bit about the Dodgers should have kept Chris Taylor, Cody Bellinger, and Walker Buehler. We'll get into perhaps a little bit of Walker Buehler because he's somebody potentially to keep an eye out for. I'm not coming out with, in the show today, a list of potential trade targets for the Dodgers because I think it's a little bit too early for that. For example, a team like the St. Louis Cardinals was a team that I had my eye out for potential trade targets for potential pitching. With the way that they're playing right now, it's very possible that they might not be within that conversation of having arms available because they're doing really well right now. So I'm careful to be able to do that, to go into that quite yet, just because the buyers and sellers haven't been set quite yet. But we'll talk about pitching. We'll talk about the necessity for some of that and where things sit right now. He also says Michael Conforto, Blake Snell are not that good anymore. Wasted money spent by the Dodgers. With Michael Conforto, 1-year deal, $17 million. Obviously, he has not lived up to the expectation. He has not lived up to what he was intended on doing. There's perhaps some signs that he could do a little bit better. But it's starting to get into mid-June timeframe, so you want to see him start to have a little bit more success. The good thing with Michael Conforto's contract is it does not implicate the Dodgers long-term past this year. Past this year, if the Dodgers don't want to hold on to Michael Conforto or re-sign him, they don't have to do that, and they don't owe Michael Conforto any money. With Blake Snell, his contract, I'm still waiting on a lot of that to see what exactly happens with him. Obviously, been injured most of the season. Only pitched 9 innings so far for the Dodgers. I have some of his numbers pulled up to the side right over there. Blake Snell struggled a little bit during his 2 outings, but really it's the availability thing that is disappointing for Blake Snell. So the question is he going to be ready? And this is the big question, is when can he be ready? And is he going to be an arm that the Dodgers can rely upon in October? That is going to be the big question for these guys. As Al Minerva, Snerd is hurt, or Snell is hurt right now as well. CNAV, Kersheiser, Christopher Navarro. Hey, what's up, Dodgers Dogs family? Thank you very much for joining us as well. Justin Lamas, that's the answer I've been looking for. Thanks. So I guess it can't be returned then. Not at this point, at least with the minor league phase of the Real 5 draft. I don't believe guys can be returned to the major league organization, or at least it becomes a lot more difficult to be able to do that. And we'll get to 2 more comments right now before we get into the rest of the portion of the show. CNAV says Conforto $17 million contract is actually 34 due to being way over the cap, 100% penalties. That's a really good point. As far as the penalties and stuff, it does cost the Dodgers a lot more to be able to do that, which means that the Dodgers have to be making a lot of money and be totally fine with going way above and beyond the payments that it's going to be able to make to certain players, or they have to, and this could be a combination of both, they have to be really prudent as far as how they use the resources that they have. That was a signing that at this point doesn't necessarily look great. We'll see what happens going forward, and they keep rolling him out there. They keep playing him, and they've moved on from some guys that have meant a lot to this organization that didn't show signs of success. So there might be perhaps a little bit more in there, or at least they're giving him every single opportunity to show that there is a little bit more in there. And then Al Minerva, Rushing needs more at bats. What a dilemma. It very much is the dilemma with Dalton Rushing, because he has been struggling a little bit at the plate. And he's somebody that I believe in just about more than anybody in this system as far as the actual bat is concerned. Right now, he is swinging and missing to a degree that is not anywhere close to what it was at the minor league level. You look at his in-zone contact rate. It's not anywhere close to the levels that he showcased down in Oklahoma City, both last year and this season. He's swinging and missing a lot more. I think he's clearly pressing at the plate. Am I overly concerned? Not 100% right now, not overly concerned. We've seen Dalton Rushing go through stretches where he's had to overcome struggles. Casey mentioned back in 2023, he went for about a month stretch without getting a hit. Part of that had to do with injury, but he also struggled during that time to get acclimated and was able to re-find himself after that injury that he sustained during July. But one of the quick ways to be able to turn things around is by getting consistent at-bats. And right now, they're not willing to sacrifice at-bats, or at least consistent at-bats from Will Smith. Will Smith is an all-star level catcher and probably and should be the starting catcher in the National League for the All-Star game, at least if this All-Star game started tomorrow. He's been phenomenal. Dalton Rushing can't really find a lot of playing time there. We should still be live right now. Let me know if we are back on check to see if we are back on in just a second. Yeah, I think we should be back on right now. Sorry, we're dealing with some thunderstorms and stuff outside, so it might be a little bit crazy with weather-wise of what we're able to do. I still believe in Dalton Rushing and his ability, but certainly with his inability to be able to get consistent at-bats, I think it very much is going to impact his development. And this was the concern with bringing Dalton Rushing up, is you don't know exactly what you're going to get from a player if you don't play him every single day. This is what we're talking about, and this is a lot of the conversation that is being had with Hae-Sung Kim right now, is you don't necessarily know if he's going to be ready, if he's going to sit on the bench for 5 days a week, especially with how good Hae-Sung Kim is. Same thing with Dalton Rushing, although Dalton Rushing has been a little bit more of a struggle. If he doesn't get plate appearances or consistent enough time to be able to acclimate to the big league level appropriately, is it the correct decision to be able to have him up there and continue his development? Still don't believe in Dalton Rushing. I think he'll be fine, but they got to find ways to be able to get him acclimated to the big league level, because the bat in there, once it's unlocked, is going to be really good. The question is, how do you unlock that big league level bat? That's what we're going to be waiting for. So what I want to do a little bit right now, we'll talk a little bit right now briefly, Dodgers versus Padres series. We'll do a little bit of logistics for what the Dodgers are dealing with in this series against the San Diego Padres, and as far as different things to be able to look out for during this series. The Dodgers are going against the Padres, obviously very close in relation to each other in the division. Here's a couple of things to know about the San Diego Padres as far as them as an actual team that the Dodgers are going to be facing up. So let's start with pitching matchups between the Dodgers and the Padres. Padres are going to be rolling out right now who their top 3 pitchers are within the starting rotation. Going to be starting off with the guy they actually got during the offseason, Nick Pivetta. They're going to be bringing him in. He's going to be starting game 1 tonight in San Diego. Tomorrow's going to be Dylan Cease. Dylan Cease, well, first off, I'll say Nick Pivetta. He's actually been pitching really well on the season. He's going to be a tough matchup to go against. Dylan Cease, somebody that Dodgers fans are familiar of, struggled a little bit ERA-wise, but the underlying metrics remain really solid for him. Still is able to generate a lot of swing and miss. And then they're going to get Randy Vasquez on the game on Wednesday. With the Padres, bit interesting how you're going to be going out and approaching this Padres team, because overall, offensively, we'll get to the pitching side in just a second, which has been relatively solid. Offensively, and this is a description that has been used quite a bit for this Padres team, very much top-heavy as an offense. We've seen at times very, very good success for players like Fernando Tatis Jr. Manny Machado's having a really solid season. Jackson Merrill remains really incredible for the Padres. But players like Luis Arias has really taken a step back. I believe, around league average offensively, but with the defensive limitations that he has, really is not living up to the type of player that he could be. Xander Bogaerts is below average offensive player so far this season, but they still have got Jake Cronenworth, who destroys the Los Angeles Dodgers every single time that he plays them. They're trying to find, and this is perhaps some of the rumors and stuff, potentially another outfielder to be part of the mix. Starting left fielder for them right now is Tyler Wade. They tried and played a little bit with Jason Hayward this series. But really for the Padres offense, it's been about league average, but really they've suffered a lot from not having the power that they typically have. You look at the overall numbers on the season, I think they're 24th or 25th in ISO and home runs that they've generated. That's going to be a big thing for the Dodgers this series, is can they keep the Padres from hitting some of those home runs? Can they continue this success and force the Padres to execute baseball on the field and perhaps try to get some of that swing and miss? In the past, they've been a team that hasn't swung and missed quite as much. And when you have Luis Arias, who hardly ever strikes out, you're going to have some of those tendencies right there. But really, the power has been out a little bit in San Diego. That's been holding them back. If they generate and find that power, it's going to be a little bit scary. And then on the pitching side, They have dealt with some injuries pitching side. Obviously, before the season, Joe Musgrove was out for the season. He has had Tommy John surgery. Right now, they currently don't have Yu Darvish. They don't have Michael King on the mound, which is why they're relying on some of the other guys. But one thing to take note of with the Padres team, and this is something that we saw a little bit last year, is their bullpen remains really, really good. I believe their bullpen, I was looking at a little bit at this on Fangraphs, is third in ERA. Don't exactly quote me on that, but towards the top half, top 5 or so in ERA for pitchers who come in as relief pitchers. So for the Dodgers, the Dodgers have been a team that can and should get off to high quality, fast starts. It's going to be important for the Dodgers to go out there and get a fast start because you do not want to get behind with the Padres bullpen, a Padres bullpen that can throw some heat and has got a lot of talented arms, and especially with some question marks going into this week for the Dodgers pitching side. They're going to be going with Dustin May tonight. They're going to be going with a question mark as far as tomorrow, and then Justin Robleski on the game on Wednesday. Robo got called up after Landon Knack's start, pitched against the St. Louis Cardinals. It'll be his turn in rotation, and right now, they're going to need Justin Robleski because Tony Gonsolin, and this is just recapping some of the news that happened over the course of when we last were on here. Tony Gonsolin was placed on the injured list, and it sounds like is going to miss some time on the mound. How long that's going to be remains up in the air, and it's concerning very much to see injuries continue to pile on for Tony Gonsolin. This was something that you fear was going to happen with a lot of these players that were coming back from injury. You fear that a little bit with Dustin May, and that fear remains because he's pitching more than he ever has. But with Tony Gonsolin coming back for all the injuries, and with all the work that they did to try to get him back healthy, wasn't as effective as he had been in the past. Looking at some of the numbers with Tony Gonsolin, 5 ERA on the season, 5.22 expected ERA. The FIP remains almost near 6. Or it was near 6. XFIP and Sierra were a little bit better, mid to lower 4s, but still wasn't a really great season to this point for Tony Gonsolin. He's going to be on the injured list, and this continues to be a piling up of injuries for the Los Angeles Dodgers pitching side, which means they're going to need to find some sort of way to either stall when they're going to need pitchers, which this has been the tactic the Dodgers have used. They have stalled when they're going to need their pitchers by using a lot of guys that they did not anticipate utilizing before. Trying to wait for Blake Snell to come back, who they were going to rely upon to get serious innings for the Dodgers. To wait until they get back at Tyler Glasnow, who they anticipated to get significant innings for the Dodgers. They have not been able to provide that for the Dodgers this season. And that has really hurt the Los Angeles Dodgers as a pitching staff. Let's look at some of the numbers on the pitching staff right now, because I think it's important to look at the overall picture of where the Dodgers have been this season and to make sure that tell you guys straight where the pitching is right now. Looking at the season, the Dodgers have had 589 innings pitched on the season. So it's not a small sample size that we're dealing with. We're on June 9th entering the series against the Padres. ERA-wise, the Dodgers have a 4.11 ERA, and these are different estimates and stuff. Some of these might be slightly off, especially the strikeouts and walks ratio. We'll get to that in just a second. Currently, though, the Dodgers rank 21st in ERA as a pitching staff, taking into account all of the different pitchers that they have. Their expected ERA is 4.12. Their FIP is 4.24. That's 23rd in all of baseball. There's a little bit of better numbers when you're talking about expected FIP, 3.86, 12th in all of baseball, 3.73 for Sierra. That's another ERA estimator, perhaps the best ERA estimator, according to a lot of people. That's 10th in all of baseball. So there's perhaps a little bit of good news right there towards the end, but overall, it's been a picture where the Dodgers, if you're talking about the best team in baseball, or the anticipated best team in baseball, and perhaps a historic team, pitching-wise, has not lived up to the potential that it has. So, what I wanted to do is I wanted to investigate this a little bit further, because I wanted to talk about, okay, how much of a concern should there actually be with this pitching staff, and how much of a potential need could there be for the Dodgers to go get pieces at the deadline? Because you look at the overall numbers, you look at the 20-something in baseball in ERA, 20-something in baseball and fielding independent pitching in FIP. That's very concerning if you're a Dodgers fan, because you should not be in the 20-something for just about anything if you want to go out there and win a World Series. Or at least you have to have other things that are towards the top in baseball, which luckily for the Dodgers, the offense, I know it struggled during the early portion of the Cardinal series, has been one of the top 2 to 3 offenses in the game of baseball. I think it's number 2 WRC plus wise in the game of baseball to this point. It has certainly helped mask some of the issues that the Dodgers have. So what I wanted to do is I wanted to take a little bit of a look at this and take a look to see, is this ERA coming mostly from a lot of the people that they've had to call up from the minor league system, or perhaps guys that they didn't really want to rely upon? What exactly do those numbers look like, and what can we actually see as far as certain patterns that we are seeing with the data to this point in the season? So what we're going to do is we're actually going to go and look at this a little bit. We're going to look a little bit into something that I was able to create right now. So this is the pitchings that the Dodgers have currently undergone on this season, and I'll dive into what exactly is going on. On the left, we have all of the different pitchers that the Dodgers have as part of their season so far, or guys that they've had come out on the mound this season. These are all 2025 statistics that we have. We also have the number of innings pitched. That goes into a lot of the estimations and making sure things are weighted properly. 0.6 just means 73 and 2/3 innings. That just is the way that you have to format it in Excel. And then we have 5 different ERA estimators. We have ERA, we have expected ERA, courtesy of StatCast. We have FIP, we have expected FIP, XFIP, and then we have Sierra perhaps being one of the more underused or underrated ERA estimators out there. What I did with those is I actually took the average of these 5 different ERA estimators and put it right here, because if you just base it based off of, for example, ERA, might not paint the full picture. If you just look at their FIP or their expected FIP or even just their Sierra, might not get the entire picture of everything. And so I wanted to provide the average just so you can see where that's at. In addition, I wanted to look at their strikeout percentage, walk percentage, and ground ball percentage. Easy numbers to be able to grab, and also are things that the pitcher has a big impact in as far as the result. Ground ball percentage, not quite as much, although getting more ground balls is going to lead to better things on the mound. So I wanted to take a look at this, and how I was able to group these was based off of a couple of different categories. So the pitchers that are in blue are different options, or at least ideal options, that the Dodgers would have in a postseason type of setting. Meaning if they were setting their 12 or 13 pitchers that they were going to take into October, these would be the guys that they would likely want to choose from. We got Yamamoto, we got Dustin May, Tony Gonsolin, Roki, Clayton, we got Tyler Glasnow, Blake Snell, Ben Kasparius. Jack Dreyer I did include as part of this category based on the success that he's had. I think he's earned to be part of this. So a lot of different guys. Now, this is not to say that all of these guys would or should be on a postseason roster if the season were to end today, nor could they even all be part of the postseason roster. Obviously, Evan Phillips is part of there, but these would at least be ideal options that the Dodgers would have. And then in the orange, these are minor league options that the Dodgers would call up. These are guys that the Dodgers could have as part of their postseason roster, but at this point right now, probably wouldn't want to choose them at this point. You can certainly have certain arguments for some of these guys up there. And then right here in green, these are, at least at this point right now, guys that the Dodgers could at some point, especially if they get a lot of guys healthy, easily probably move off of, designate them for assignment, or you have down here Miguel Rojas and Kike Hernandez, 2 different pitching injuries. Now, on here, something to note about the colors that we see right there. Red, as it is in StatCast, very good. Blue, not so good. So you want to see more red than you see blue on the pitching side right now. And what you're going to notice is I have, especially at the top, a lot of different starting pitchers. So 2 through 8 are the different starting pitchers. And what we've seen to this point of the season, which, yes, this just includes 2025 numbers, not a whole lot of great starting pitching that the Dodgers have had, which I think it can be reflected by what we've seen from the Dodgers as a staff. You look at some of the numbers. Dustin May has been relatively decent with a lot of these, a 4.09 ERA. The expected ERA is a little bit higher. The Sierra's 3.67. That's not bad. Overall, about league average-ish, close to about a 4 if you average out all of the different ERA estimators for Dustin May. He's been around league averages. There's a little bit of a concern if you go to Dustin May's StatCast page. There's a lot of blue that is on there. But I think with Dustin May, obviously coming back from injury, still finding out a lot about who he is coming back as a pitcher. I think he's been a success so far this season. But he's certainly somebody to keep an eye out for. In a postseason type series, I don't know if you want Dustin May to be more than a 4 starter in a postseason type series, at least as of right now. I think he'd be solid in that role, but to put him as a number 3, I'd be concerned. To put him as a number 2, I'd be very concerned if I were the Dodgers, just by the way his numbers are shaping out right now. Tony Gonsolin struggled quite a bit, as you can see a lot of there. Roki Sasaki obviously dealt with a lot of struggles during his time on the mound. Where it becomes a little bit better, as you can see, there's a lot more red during the bullpen. Ben Kasparius has been solid. Jack Dreyer, Tanner Scott has been solid. Alex Vesia, he's been giving up some home runs, which is leading to some of his numbers being down a little bit. That might be a little bit concerned for us if you're a Dodgers fan. So what I wanted to do with this, and the reason why I'm showing you this and all of these different numbers, which I think it's helpful to put different colors at this because I think people can get lost in the actual numbers. Seeing actual colors and knowing what that means can really help with the actual data. What I wanted to do, and I have down here the different ranks for Major League Organization. First, I wanted to look both at all arms in the system, which for strikeout percentage and walk percentage, ground ball percentage, these might be slightly off. Only because I didn't use the raw values. I just typed in the rounded values. So like strikeout percentage is, I think, 23.8, just slightly off right there. But these ranks are correct right here. So if we were to rank the Dodgers in the arms that they have for all of the different arms that they use, including all of these arms, including a Noah Davis, a Yoandres Gomez, a Chris Stratton, a Luis Garcia, including Justin Robleski, Bobby Miller, Landon Knack, who struggled quite a bit during a lot of his different outings this season. If we include all of those different numbers, the Dodgers would rank 21st, 23rd in ERA and FIP, respectively. If, however, and this is totally unfair, and actually I don't think that walk percentage is exactly correct. That's probably 23rd or so, I think is what that is. I think that's a typo right there. If we were talking about the ideal postseason options, which remember are these guys in blue right here, guys that we could potentially rely upon if they were healthy to be part of the postseason, the outlooks looks a little bit better. We're talking about the overall ERA estimators being about 3.74. For the guys that you're relying upon, instead of a 4.11 ERA, it's more like a 3.56 ERA that we've seen from those guys. And a 3.91 xFIP, 3.88 FIP, 3.72 expected FIP, 3.61 Sierra. If you were to do a totally unfair comparison with just taking those guys and comparing it to ranks of Major League Baseball teams, and that's not removing any of the guys that they perhaps are putting in as designatable guys or younger guys that they're relying upon, that would put you more as a 12th, 13th, 5th, and 7th as far as ERA estimators. They'd be more towards the lower portion of the top half in Major League Baseball. And they would have some guys that can strike guys out. Where you can see there's a lot of struggle is they've had to rely upon quite a bit from either some of their minor league starting depth or some of the guys that they've designated for assignment. You can see some of these numbers, some of the estimations of some of the numbers right here. So, the reason why I bring all of this up, and we're going to cut back to me right now, the reason why I bring a lot of this up is because I wanted to provide a little bit of an overview of where the Dodgers pitching is at right now. If you look at just the overall season totals, they are concerning, and certainly rightfully so. Look at the Dodgers, they're in 20-something in ERA. Not a good look, especially if you're the Dodgers, and it is very concerning if you are an organization that anticipates to be playing in October, that anticipates to be playing in postseason baseball. Very much a concerning trend. Some of that has been coming from some of the depth that they've had, from some of the guys that they were anticipating potentially designating for assignment. Certainly some of those guys could move up to being ideal postseason options. Keep an eye out for Lou Trevino. Keep an eye out for, if he comes back healthy, Luis Garcia, just as a couple of names that have performed well at this point. But we've seen some of those guys have to really take in some of the reign for the Dodgers pitching staff, which could be masking a little bit some of the issues that the Dodgers have been dealing with pitching-wise. So the question, and this is the question that the Dodgers have to wrestle with, and we as fans have to wrestle with. One has to be with how much of the pitching struggles that the Dodgers have been due to the fact that they're using guys that they were not anticipate using. I think certainly some of that is to be the rationale as far as where the Dodgers' struggles has been due to the fact that they've had to rely upon. I mean, you look at the series coming up against the Padres, they would certainly like to use some of their ace level arms, but they just aren't in a position where they can use that. At this point, that has been something they've had to rely upon. So how much of the struggles that the Dodgers have been in relation to that, or how much of this is going to be something to where the Dodgers just need to add more pitching? Where it stands right now, and this is the big question, and something that we have to keep an eye out for, and something that I know the Dodgers are watching out for, is what is the health of the pitchers that are on the injured list that are working their way back. Because those questions have to be answered over the course of about another month or so. What is the actual expectation for guys like Blake Snell? What is the actual expectation for Tyler Glasnow? What are we actually going to see from a guy coming back who has missed an entire year, from a guy like an Emmett Sheehan? And how much pressure and reliability should be placed on him? These are all different questions about Blake Trinan, a lot of different guys. What should the expectation be on them to come back? And if you look at the pitching side, there's a lot of red that can be had from the bullpen. As long as they don't get overworked and as long as they can manage their workload, I think they probably, although you can't have enough bullpen arms that can come out, and certainly they'll be at least keeping an eye out in the market to see who could potentially be available, and you can find different pieces for relatively cheap out of the bullpen. I don't think that's necessarily going to be the biggest issue for the Dodgers to be able to fill in at the postseason. I think the biggest thing that they're keeping an eye out for, and they have to keep an eye out for, is what is going to be the health of the starting pitching going forward for this team. Because we've just saw Tony Gonsolin drop out. We don't know when he's going to be able to return, and at this point, with the numbers that he's showcased and with the ramp-up ability that it would take whenever he's available to come back, I don't know if he's an arm that they necessarily want to rely upon in the postseason. Ideally, I think for the postseason, you would want to see Yamamoto. Obviously, he's healthy and has been one of the better starting pitchers in the game of baseball. You'd love to see a Blake Snell come back. You'd love to see a Tyler Glasnow come back. you want to see Shohei Ohtani be able to pitch as well, which I think there's been a lot of different explanation, especially with the complications of anything out of the bullpen for Shohei Ohtani, with him also having to bat, just logistically being able to find a way for him to warm up could present a lot of different complications. So I think you would have him be a starter, whether that's an opener type of setting or have him go through some length. Those are different guys that you have to keep an eye out for. But right now, there's not a certainty as far as when those guys are going to return. So, with the Dodgers, they kind of have to stall at this point. But also, you're running into the issue to where tomorrow you potentially might have to use either a bullpen game, or you might have to call up a guy like a Bobby Miller, like a Matt Sauer, to come up from the minor leagues as well. It is concerning at this point because the depth of this organization is being tested right now as they go out and try to stall their way into getting into the second half, getting into the next half. The question is, how long can you stall before it really impacts in October? I still think this team, and I think all the expectation is they're going to make it to the postseason. I don't think it's going to be. I think they have way too much talent to be able to do that, especially on the offensive side of the ball. It's going to help carry them. But on the pitching side, when we're starting to see them lose a couple of series, when we've seen them hover around 500 as far as their record over the past month or so in the season, it becomes a question, is that going to impact potentially playoff seeding? Or how much of an impact are you going to want to take at that? Or when is exactly the decisive action that you're going to want to make? I know it's something where they don't want to make moves. They don't necessarily want to spend. But at some point, you're going to have to take a look at your situation of where you're at. And you're going to have to be honest as far as the assessment of the guys that are coming back from the mound. It is certainly not going to be something that's going to be shared here. Certainly not going to be something that until it's absolutely necessary is going to be shared to the public. But all these different conversations are being had by the Los Angeles Dodgers as an organization. So on the pitching side, the question is there a pitching crisis right now for the Dodgers? I think in some ways you can look at it and see it as very much so. Yes, it is. With the way that they're performing, they're not living up to the expectation of where they should be. You look at the ERA, 21st in Major League Baseball, not where the Dodgers should be. 23rd in FIP, not where the Dodgers should be. It is better when you look at the guys that you would rely upon during the postseason series, and that even includes struggles from Tyler Glasnow and Blake Snell, who are much better if you look at the actual results that they produced throughout their major league career. But there still is a lot of concern, and if you're building out a starting rotation right now for a postseason, it gets scary with where you're at, which is leading to some questions about who could potentially the Dodgers bring in. I'm not going to get into that necessarily. I know there's been some talk potentially about a Walker Buehler who struggled a little bit over his time in Boston, and certainly Boston hasn't been running away with anything in the American League, although it's still very, very much a question as far as whether there will be buyers and sellers at this point. So I don't even know if a guy like a Walker Buehler would even be available for the Dodgers. He is certainly somebody to keep an eye out for, but for the starting pitching side right now, that is my main question with this team. Is their starting pitching actually going to be healthy and effective going into the postseason? Because with the bullpen, with how much work they've had to go through the course of the season, with how taxed that they are, I don't know if you want to completely try to ride them out through the course of the postseason, especially if you're going to be relying upon them quite a bit during the regular season as well. That's going to be a question mark, something that the Dodgers are going to have to look at, which makes the problem of players like Michael Conforto, who struggled a little bit, seem less of an issue in comparison to the pitching side for the Los Angeles Dodgers. But my question for you guys is, how concerned are you guys with the pitching side that we're seeing with the Dodgers? And also with the tool that I was able to utilize right there, just created that during a little time that I had during my lunch break today. Just curious what you guys think as far as where the pitching is at right now. They do have some guys coming back, which it was very good to see Michael Kopech and Kirby Yates come back. That is a very good sign because the Dodgers bullpen desperately needed those arms to come back and to get some high leverage right-handed relief help in addition to a guy like a Ben Kasparius. They're going to be key. They're going to be crucial to the success of this team, not just during the regular season, but very key and crucial to the success that they could have during the postseason as well. I'm glad to get them back before the series against the San Diego Padres. So let's get to a couple more of the comments right now. We'll talk a little bit about this. Answer any sort of questions that you guys have. If you have any questions about anything that has to be related to do with the major league organization or with the minor league system, some guys that you're curious about. I do spend a lot of time watching these guys down at the minor league level and evaluating to see where they are at. There's a lot of good things, particularly on the offensive side, to take note of. We might talk a little bit about that. Actually, certainly we'll talk a little bit about some great performance that I saw in Great Lakes this past week. We'll get into some of that. Let's see. Kersizer, CNAV, Christopher Navarro says we're going into a 10-game stretch against San Diego, San Francisco, and are very lean on pitching. Reminds me of the playoffs last year. It does remind you a little bit of the playoffs because dating back to last season, they were very much struggling as far as the starting pitching is concerned. And this is a stretch to where the Giants, Padres, they've really got nothing to lose. They're going out there and trying to take advantage of this. For them, they have to take advantage of the series against the Dodgers while they still can. And for the Dodgers, they have to do everything that they can to survive this stretch, especially coming off a series against the Cardinals where they just lost, coming off of some series where it's been maybe win a series, tie a series, lose a series, around 500. They're going to have to find a way to be able to come back and be able to do it. Gregory, when is Snell due back? That's the question. No idea when Blake Snell is going to be coming back. Sounds like he's going to be throwing a bullpen coming up in San Diego for the Dodgers. What that exactly means, don't exactly know. And as far as about him being able to ramp back up, I don't know if he's going to be able to do that, how quickly he's going to be able to do that. I think the expectation is he's still going to be able to come back, but what is the timeline with that? Very difficult to know. Very difficult to know if the Dodgers are slow playing it or if it's something where they just are really concerned about where he is at right now. Or it's just a very slow process. All these things remain a question. A lot of the injury concern is a question mark. One thing that is very good and that you can actually see some of the results for, as CNAP pointed out, very excited to hear Emmett Sheehan is rehabbing right now and is actually performing really well. Pitched, I don't remember exactly when last for Oklahoma City. Fairly recently. Another good outing, a lot of good signs. The fastball seems to have a lot of life. And I think this is something to where it's happening a lot quicker than I would have anticipated probably for Emmett. Just 12, 13 months after he had the surgery, and he's coming back and performing really well. Justin Lamas, Willie Adames, talking a little bit about being smart with how you spend money. Willie Adames got a 7-year, $182 million contract for the San Francisco Giants. Congratulations for Willie during the first part of his career. Earned a contract to where somebody was going to be able to offer him that, but he is hitting below his weight right now, and his defense is now not great, and it's just year one of a 7-year, $182 million deal. That might actually be something that we talk about on a future show coming up. Might actually take a look at some of the players that were mentioned on this show, some of the players that were rumored to be with the Dodgers, perhaps some old friends. Just to take a look to see where they are at right now. Certainly with Willie Adames, the biggest question mark going into the season. Well, back when we didn't know exactly who was going to be playing shortstop for the Dodgers. Turns out Mookie Betts been playing a perfectly fine shortstop for the Dodgers during the course of his season so far, when it very much was a question mark who was going to play shortstop for this team. Willie Adames was an option. One of the concerning signs with him was there was a decline in some of his defensive production, some of the numbers from what it was at the height of his career. So then the question mark was, okay, you could move him over to third base, but offensively just doesn't hit quite enough, and especially with the incoming regression that could potentially be there. The argument that I had against the Dodgers adding Willy Adames during the offseason was there just wasn't enough offensively there to want to have him be part of the team long term, and certainly at this point in the season, certainly isn't living up to the standard of which the San Francisco Giants paid him. Still a lot of time to be able to figure things out and turn it around, and I think there will be stretches to where Willy Adames will be a good player for them, but that is something to take note and provide caution during the offseason. And caution also when we're talking about trading for particular players, especially noteworthy players that have had success at the big league level. Just because you have had success already at the big league level does not mean that you will continue to have success going forward at the big league level. You have to find guys that you believe in, either mechanically to be able to make some sort of adjustments that you can help unlock something in them. Perhaps there's some signs that show that there could be future success going forward, or there has to be some sort of rationale besides he was good before, he will probably be good again. And I think the Dodgers do a really good job for the most part of looking into that and taking some good appropriate chances on guys. Pitching side becomes very complicated because the Dodgers deal with an insane amount of injuries. We might talk a little bit about that a little bit later on a different show, but that is something to keep in mind when going out and trying to target different guys either in free agency or at the trade deadline. CNAF says, tomorrow is 3 weeks since my rotator cuff surgery. Understand why it takes so long for pitchers to start throwing. I have to do everything left-handed at the moment. Yeah, we'll keep praying for you, as Justin Lama says. Speedy recovery to you. We'll keep praying for you that everything is able to go well with the recovery. It takes a while to be able to rehab from a lot of that. So we'll keep working on that, and we'll keep thinking about you, man. Gregory, I heard there is a talk about getting Walker Buehler back. That comes a lot from Jeff Passan, I believe, initiated this with an article in which he was trying to piece different pieces together across the injury as far as potential trade targets that the Dodgers could get. I don't think this has come specifically from the Los Angeles Dodgers, certainly themselves, or any sort of additional rumors about that. But he is somebody to keep an eye out for as far as who the Dodgers could potentially target with his familiarity to the organization. Let's see. Continue. CNAV says both Buehler and Flaherty are pitching for their teams. We have 15 guys in the training room, guys that are on the injured list. Also, let's not forget, Max Fried wanted to sign with the Dodgers. Could have been something that they did. They decided to go with Blake Snell. Obviously, Max Fried is having good success for the Yankees so far this season. We'll see how the contract ages out going forward, both for Max Fried and Blake Snell. There's a question, because it was brought up, about the different statistics that I was showing. Sierra is skill-induced ERA, is what it stands for. It's a little bit more complicated than FIP and expected FIP. So if you take and break down the formula for fueling independent pitching, that just takes into account what a pitcher has control of. So that takes into account strikeouts, walks, and home runs. And that's pretty much it. Expected FIP takes it a step further, in which case it tries to normalize the home run per fly ball percentage that a pitcher gives up to create an expected value. So it changes it to a league average home run per fly ball percentage. Sierra skill-induced ERA takes into account more variables. I think it takes into account, for example, ground ball percentage. Don't quote me on that. There's a lot more variables that go into play with skill-induced ERA, another estimator for an ERA that has shown better predictive value than even FIP and expected FIP. So it's actually, if you're picking an ERA estimator or somebody to evaluate a player on, Sierra is actually probably the best, or one of my favorites to look at with that. That's what it was, what I was showing right there. Let's see, continuing to go right now with a couple of different comments and stuff. We'll get into, I haven't seen anything about him, Justin Lamas. We'll talk about him perhaps on a little bit on a different show to see exactly what's going on with Garrett McDaniels. I just want to make sure that I'm getting the correct information. I'm assuming that you're correct with that, but I don't want to talk about him quite yet. Chris Navarro, thank you very much for joining us. Different Chris Navarro. 14 pitchers on the injured list is pure insanity. It is very insane what's going on with him. Gregory says, why can't we pitch by committee instead of making your starting pitchers pitch 4 to 5 innings? Make them pitch 2 innings to bring in another starter pitcher for 2 innings and so on. Becomes very difficult as far as the number of pitchers that you're going to be able to bring in. You're obviously very limited by the sample, about the number of pitchers that you can have on your roster, 13 being your limit. And with these guys, they're not going to have them go back-to-back days. And even if you were to stagger it out every other day or every 3 days, it becomes something to where I think you might be under getting some of the potential innings that you might need. And it could be something to where if one guy is not able to pitch 2 innings or not be effective during those 2 innings, it can really derail the pitching staff that you have. So I think it's essential that the Dodgers have all 13 pitchers. One argument that you could have, and something that I think probably should be done at some point, although this could have an impact for October particularly. With October, typically a lot of teams like the high stuff, short inning type of guys, which typically come from those 1 inning type of pitchers. That's where you're going to get some of the best stuff, because then you can maximize it during a shorter period of time. If you have guys draw out a little bit more, get some more innings, I think that is actually probably better for the regular season, but perhaps worse for October, because you might not be getting the most effective stuff. Although pitcher like Ben Kasparius is totally going against that. What I think you could potentially see in the future is you could see more 2-inning guys or 2 to 3 inning guys, those bulk piggyback starters, be part of your bullpen, especially next year. If they're getting Gavin Stone, you're getting MHGN, you're getting a pitcher like a Kyle Hurt, or a lot of these different minor guys that have come up through the system as starters. Perhaps if you, especially a best case scenario, you have all these different guys healthy, you find a different way to be able to piggyback some of these guys to get them in the rotation and to provide a little bit of rest in between outings for some of the bullpen guys, similar to how they set it up at the minor league level where they have a scheduled piggyback starter for some of these games. But that is something that they don't typically do. And I think it has to do with them wanting a lot of high leverage arms, especially for October, which is something that they can do everything they can to set up the team to have success in October, and we'll see where it goes from there. Let's see. Jay asks a couple of different questions right here. Question, Eric Swan had a great performance this week. We'll talk about that. That's actually really good. It's really good. Segue into this. He did not only have a really good week, he had a really, really good week, turning a command corner and locking that magic arm. So, for Eric Swan, right-handed pitcher within the Dodgers organization, just for some context and stuff for the game. So, he pitched on Thursday. Thursday was a doubleheader. Wednesday got rained out. So, Thursday was a doubleheader. Eric Swan pitched game 2 of that doubleheader. In game 1 of the doubleheader, the Loons got down early. They got down 5-1, and then during the 6th inning of a 7-inning doubleheader game at the minor league level, they only play 7 innings during a doubleheader type of situation. They played 2 7-inning games. During the 6th inning, so basically the 8th inning of that game, Logan Wagner, third base / second base prospect within the system, who put up some really solid numbers, hit a game-tying grand slam, tie things up for them, for the Loons. It was incredible to be able to watch that. Gets to the bottom of the 7th inning, game is still tied, end up with the runner on base. There was a stolen base, followed by a balk, and then a sacrifice fly to walk it off for the Cubs. Some controversy. There's a lot of questions as far as whether the runner on third left early. Jair Fernandez was 100% convinced that happened, or at least appeared to be, because he got tossed before the start of game 2, which Eric Swan took the mound. And not only was Eric Swan really good, he and Roque Gutierrez pitched the second ever Great Lakes Loons no-hitter came in a 7-inning game against the South Bend Cubs in South Bend, Indiana on Thursday, June 5th, 2025. And Eric Swan took the bulk of those innings, pitching 6 no-hit innings right there. He was absolutely on during that game. I was in the crowd during that time, off to the side, over by the Loons dugout. Did not leave my seat for the entire game because I did not want to jinx anything that was happening. But it was absolutely amazing to be able to watch a no-hitter in action. Eric Swan obviously had a lot of success. I have not gone back and actually watched the footage of that game to see where the command actually was from a better angle point of view. But he certainly has had a lot of success on that outing, and I'm curious to see during his upcoming outing against Wisconsin this week how he's able to rebound or from that type of high that you get from throwing a no-hitter. So congratulations, Eric Swan, Roque Gutierrez, if you're not paying attention, he's bulk inning type pitcher that comes out of the bullpen. Just had to throw 1 inning, but he's had some really good numbers on the season. Keep an eye out for him. Jay also mentions trio Loons outfielders doing well. Who gets moved to Tulsa first? Sirota ? Older. Great question. So right now in Great Lakes, they have an outfield, 4 outfielders that are phenomenal. You have Josue de Paula and Zaire Hope. That combo obviously gets a lot of publicity. Then you have Mike Sirota, who the Dodgers got in a trade with the Cincinnati Reds for Gavin Lux. They also got a compensation pick that they will use during this upcoming Major League Baseball draft. And then they also have Kendall George, their first-round pick from the 2023 Major League Baseball draft. All of them are having a lot of success. Josue de Paula and Zaire Hope have been with the Loons throughout this entire season. Same with Kendall George. Josue de Paula, Zaire Hope are both around 150 WRC plus players. Mike Sirota has been on the team for a couple weeks, maybe close, not quite a month yet. He's been on the team for a little bit and has performed really well when he's been healthy and on the field. You're talking about him in Great Lakes, about a 180-something WRC plus. As far as question mark of who gets called up, my guess, and this is just a guess, this comes with zero inside information, my guess still remains Josue de Paula, only because he got moved to the Loons to start the second half of the season, which the second half is going to be starting up in about a week and a half or so for Great Lakes. If you're doing that same timeline for him, my guess is because of the success that he's had and because he spent just about a full season with Great Lakes, he would probably get called up first. Zaire Hope started the season with Great Lakes. I would anticipate him probably staying there, at least for right now, especially because I don't think they're ready to move off of anybody that's in Tulsa. They've still got some really solid talent in the outfield out there with Jose Ramos, Damon Keith, and Chris Newell. Some really good raw tools that they have up there. So that would be my guess as far as him right now. My guess is it would probably be Depot, Josue de Paula. Kendall George, I could see probably staying with Great Lakes for a majority of the season. Mike Sirota, it depends on how much he's able to mash the baseball. Slowed down a little bit this weekend, especially at the end of this weekend, but can really mash the baseball. We'll have to see. The outfield, as CNAP pointed out, is absolutely crazy. Been watching a lot of Loons baseball lately, and certainly they've been advertised quite a bit as far as minor league baseball. You see them quite a bit be the minor league baseball free game of the day, which is something that I haven't run the numbers quite yet, but they seem to be getting that more than just about any other team, or at least towards more than most other teams, and deservedly so. Loons are must-watch baseball right now. Go out and check out the Loons right now. Let's see. Chris Navarro, how true are the rumors that Philly is moving on from Harper? Will the Dodgers make him an offer for him? I haven't seen any rumors like that. I'm going to assume that they're not true at this point. But I also haven't been paying attention to a lot of Phillies baseball. I would anticipate them doing that, though. Bryce Harper is a really good player. We'll see what happens with them right now. I haven't heard anything from that either, as Steve Knapp pointed out. Justin Lames got it from Major League Baseball trade rumor. So let's assume that what it stated was true. It sounded like Garrett McDaniels was designated for assignment. He was taken in the major league portion of the Rule 5 draft. Look at this. Starting the show with the minor league portion of the Rule 5 draft, Justin Lamas. Now we're ending it with the major league portion of the Rule 5 draft. He was one of the players that from the Dodgers organization got selected by the Los Angeles Dodgers to be part of the major league phase of the Rule 5 draft, which means that he has to stay and had to stay on the major league roster, the 26-man roster for the Angels for the entirety of this season. Otherwise, he would have to be designated for assignment and potentially offered back to the major league organization, the front office of the Dodgers. With Garrett, I know he spent some time on the injured list, which can happen with some of these guys that are Rule 5, part of the Rule 5 draft. And I know the Angels have been playing pretty solid baseball, or at least we're playing a little bit solid baseball over the course of the past couple of weeks. Garrett McDaniels is a really solid pitcher. It was very much a surprise for me when he got selected in the Rule 5 draft, only because he had maybe one or two outings in Double-A before he got selected. He's going to be and continue to be a major league pitcher. So at this point, once he gets designated for assignment, he gets offered back to the major league organization, although I think other teams might have a chance to be able to get him under the same guidelines of the major league portion of the Rule 5 draft. I don't know exactly as far as the order of all those different things go, but it's totally possible that Garrett McDaniels could potentially be joining the Dodgers organization again. And if he is, that's an absolute gift to the Dodgers, although you hope that he's able to stick it around at the major league level. We'll see if he's able to do that. And if he goes back to the Dodgers, it won't be on the 40-man roster. It would just be part of the minor league system as if he didn't get taken in the Rule 5 draft. They would have to offer him back, cost $50,000, which I assume that the Dodgers would pick that up for Garrett McDaniels right there. Then CNAV says the Loons start in half an hour and still no starting pitcher listed. They will actually be playing tomorrow. So remember, today's Monday. We're doing a live show Monday. Dodgers Dawgs, part of the Dodgers Daily Network. They play Tuesdays through Sundays. So they haven't announced the starting pitcher because they will actually be picking it back up tomorrow for a game. So be sure to check that out. As well as, and this is the thing that a lot of Dodgers fans are paying attention to, the games that are happening tonight and this week, and especially this first series that is happening against the San Diego Padres Monday through Wednesday. It's a big series for the Dodgers. It's a real test to see where they are at in relation to some of the other teams in their division. Is it going to be something to where the Dodgers are going to have to be very competitive in the National League West through the course of the regular season? Which, if that is especially true, is it going to be something to where they're going to have to go out there and they're going to have to make more moves, be more aggressive than what they are comfortable and what they necessarily want to do? This is going to be a good test. You got to play against the Padres. You got to play against the Giants. You got to play against the Padres again. This 10-game stretch that the Dodgers are going to go on is going to show a lot of character for the Dodgers. We're going to see what the state of the bullpen is. How much are they going to be relied upon? How much is the pitching going to be able to help keep the Dodgers in games? And can the Dodgers offense do a lot better than what it did this past weekend against the Cardinals, particularly the early portion of the series? Because right now, the offense is healthy. It has to take advantage and it has to help carry this team right now, because I don't think the pitching is in a state to where they can help carry the load right now with where they are at. Bullpen-wise, fairly healthy with the returns of Michael Kopech and Kirby Yates, but starting pitching-wise, it can be very tricky with where the Dodgers are at right now. Overall, the Dodgers are still in a state of evaluation, a state of trying to get guys healthy and ready to come back. But how long can you actually sustain that? How long can you wait for guys to come back and be healthy remains the very top of the line question, especially on the starting pitching side. And how aggressive do the Dodgers have to be? They currently do not have a starting pitcher tomorrow. I think the start for Dustin May tonight is going to be very crucial just to see where he's at in relation to a lot of these other guys. Numbers have been around average for Dustin May on the season, which great because he's been available. He's been one of the pitchers that have kept the game. We've seen some really good starts for Dustin May, other ones that were a little bit iffy, not so good for him overall. Decent-ish numbers for him, but to go out against in a hostile environment against a team that desperately wants to beat the Dodgers and can see the lead, at least at this point in the National League West, potentially available through the course of the series. Dustin May's got to go out there. He's got to go out there, pitch well, and he's got to be able to provide some length because I think that's going to determine what they potentially do tomorrow. How long is Dustin May going to be able to go out there, or are they going to have to turn to a guy like a Jose Urena early in this game just to go out there and eat some innings and to save the bullpen for the rest of the series? You do have the off day on Thursday, which is going to help because you can utilize a lot of these different relievers through the course of this series. But for Dustin May, I think this is going to be a very crucial start for him, and a continuation of the evaluation process for Dustin May, and how serious is he to be a contender, to be a starting pitcher for the Dodgers in a postseason type of setting. Is he up? Is he ready for this type of environment coming back from an injury? This is going to be a big test for him. It's going to be a big test for the Los Angeles Dodgers, and you're hoping for a good series, obviously, against a team that really wants to beat the Dodgers. You want to continue to showcase that the Dodgers are the team. They are the team to go out there and win and go out there and maintain their lead in the National League West. Going to be fun, excited baseball to be able to watch this series, and I can't wait to be able to do that. Just to go ahead and talk about the rest of this week, we'll go ahead and do this throughout the course of the rest of the week. We will be doing, at least with me, and hopefully some other hosts as well, 2 more live shows throughout the course of this week. I don't have an exact date yet, only because I'm trying to get it to match with when Coach Holt and Mark Watkins can go. I believe Mark is available on Thursday. That would be a Thursday late evening show. That'd be at the earliest probably 8 Eastern, 5 o'clock Pacific time that we would be able to do that show. Another live show format like we did for this show, except with the 2 of us going out and interacting. And then there will be one other show. That show will take place probably either Friday or Saturday, potentially on Wednesday as well. We'll continue to go out there and do these live shows as much as we possibly can to be able to talk to you guys, to be able to interact and keep this community growing. Casey has built a absolutely phenomenal culture, phenomenal place for Dodgers fans to be able to come together to talk some Dodgers baseball, and really to interact as fans. And I want to make sure that I do whatever I can while Casey is still ill at this point to be able to help maintain that until he's ready to come back out there and take the reins, which he will come back as soon as he possibly can. And I know all of you guys can't wait for Casey to be back. He is the absolute best. These are shoes that I will never be able to fulfill because of how good that he's able to do. But I'm excited to present what I do have, and hopefully we can get some of the other hosts to get some other perspectives as well for you guys. So that's going to do it for here for Dodgers Dogs, are part of the Dodgers Daily Network. Talked a lot about the pitching side. Hopefully you got to see a tool that we might bring up a little bit. We might update some of these numbers as the season goes along to see where the pitching is. I actually think the color scheme helps present it in a little bit of a better form than just looking at the numbers just strictly off of fan graphs or baseball reference. I think that's something that actually StatCast does really well, and I wanted to kind of implement that a little bit to put all the numbers together right there. So hopefully that was a tool that you find helpful. We'll be utilizing some more tools like that. If you guys have any other additional topics you want me to research as well, I know Jay had mentioned some of the topics that he wants me to dive into as well. I'll certainly dive into that as well. We're going to talk a lot more Dodgers baseball. We'll get back to doing more shows later this week. Be tuned out for those. I'll get those up to you as soon as we possibly can. But until next time, it's going to be a fun night. Watch some Dodgers baseball. Tune in to the Los Angeles Dodgers as they take on the San Diego Padres tonight. Until next time, though, Thank you for tuning in, and go Dodgers.